Refusing a chemical test can create a license nightmare. You're on the side of the road, officer puts you through some field sobriety tests and thinks you might be under the influence of alcohol, and they give you the option, they read what's called implied consent, to submit to a chemical test. You think to yourself, if I say no, they won't have the evidence to convict me. You think you're protecting your future, and in some states, that's true, but not in Indiana. Here in Indiana, if the officer reads you implied consent and you refuse a chemical test, you are getting automatically a 1-year license suspension. And if you have a prior OVWI, it triggers a 2-year license suspension. And the worst part of it all is that officer is still going to get a warrant and get your blood. So you are only hurting your ability to drive. It means no specialized driving privileges. If you have a refusal, you're specifically excluded from being eligible for specialized driving privileges. No driving to work, no driving the kids to school, none of that. And we know how important that can be, and this can have a tremendous impact on your ability to do that. Most people don't realize that a DUI, or OVWI, as we call it here in Indiana, really creates two separate battles. There's the probable cause suspension that's issued from the court, and that's where they suspend your license based on the result of the chemical test. Now, that is something where we are oftentimes able to get specialized driving privileges for. But then there's also this civil matter where the court sends notice to the BMV that you allegedly refused the chemical test if you did refuse. That is something that's not eligible for specialized driving privileges and creates a much bigger issue. That issue is it triggers an automatic 1-year suspension. And if you have a prior OVWI conviction, it's a 2-year suspension. So above and beyond whatever happens with the criminal case, you're looking at that additional refusal suspension that creates all sorts of headaches. So why is this legal? Well, it's because of what's called implied consent in Indiana under Indiana Code 9-30-6. Think of it as kind of a deal you made with the state of Indiana, where by getting your driver's license and driving on these roads, that you will agree to a chemical test here if the officer has probable cause. It's not a request by the officer. It's a condition for your ability to drive here. Anything really other than an absolute unequivocal yes can trigger that refusal suspension. Asking to talk to an attorney can trigger a refusal suspension. Saying, I don't like the blood draw, can we do the breath test instead? Even that can trigger a refusal suspension. You basically have to jump up and down and say, yes, please take this evidence from me. And we know it's not fair, but it's the law. It also matters where you were arrested. Different counties have different rules on lifting that refusal suspension. For example, in Hancock County, we almost never see that refusal suspension lifted. In Hamilton County, we sometimes get that refusal suspension dropped, but you're still looking at no specialized driving privileges on your OVWI suspension. Different counties have different rules, and we can talk you through what it's going to look like. But here's the good news. The officer saying you refused isn't the end of the case. We will request that body cam footage and we will go through everything to see. Were you properly advised of Indiana's implied consent law? Did you refuse? Did you try to agree? Did you just not understand? We will look into everything to try to figure out what we can do to get that refusal lifted, because we know driving is so important to everyone. If they botched the script, if they were confusing, if they didn't make it clear what could happen, all of those things can help impact our ability to fight to get you driving. Refusing a breathalyzer doesn't stop the state's ability to get your test result. All it does is impact your ability to drive. So if you're facing a refusal suspension, or if you have questions about a refusal suspension, give us a call at 317-632-3642. We can talk about your options. We can talk about how we can fight it and how we can possibly get it lifted. So give us a call, and remember, always plead the fifth.